Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
On beer.
and Beer. And the show's back. We are back. It only was a couple weeks. Didn't take me as long as I thought it would to find a new co-host. And joining us for her first episode is Sandra. How you doing, Sandra? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a 41, soon to be 42-year-old school teacher. I teach middle school students. Yes, I do. And just general lover of all things crime, horror, creepy, things like that. So I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. And I'm sure everybody was expecting me to bring in somebody that had been on the show previously, like as a guest or something. Nope. Not only have you never been on the show before, you've never even done a podcast before.
I haven't, so this is new for me. So to all your viewers, be gentle.
Well, they're your viewers now too.
To all my viewers, be gentle. This is my first time. You always got to be gentle the first time, right?
I'm not going to touch that with 10-foot pole. So, just jumping right into it. Glad the show's back. I kind of got bored on Sundays not doing it, so today we're covering a Dr. Death, Michael Joseph Swango. This guy was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
you kind of expect your doctors to help you, right? Not kill you, at least intentionally. Yeah.
There's this whole Hippocratic Oath thing, like do no harm. That's
kind of, yeah. You think
it's like their prime directive, if you will.
He didn't agree with it, apparently. He missed that day in medical school, I suppose.
He missed a lot of days in medical school, apparently, because he wasn't that good.
He was good at one thing. He was good at offing his patients. I mean, if that was his goal, he was good at that.
Yeah. They could have used him in the 40s in Germany.
So I'm not going to touch that, but yes.
So Michael Joseph Swango was born Joseph Michael Swango, and he was a deadly doctor who's estimated to have committed up to 60 murders from 1981 to 1997 in the U.S. and Zimbabwe, of all places, by poisoning his patients and his colleagues. But he only admitted to 4.
And his colleagues all lived, right? I didn't think he killed any coworkers. I think they just, got some nice arsenic poisoning or something.
Yeah, none of his coworkers died, but a lot of his patients did.
Yeah.
He was born October 21st, 1954 in Tacoma on an army base in Washington. His parents were Muriel and John Swango, and he was the middle of 3 kids. The family moved to Quincy, Illinois, where when he was a baby, and that's where he was raised. And John was a strict authoritarian, and he raised the kids under the army discipline. Line up, kids. Take out the trash. But Dad, there's 6 feet of snow. Take out the trash. Move it.
Had him marching.
Up, 2, 3, 4. The trash is going to take itself out.
Boy. I know.
John was a soldier in the U.S. Army, and he served in Vietnam. And when he got back, he suffered from PTSD, and he crawled into a bottle of liquor to cope. And
like you do.
Yeah. His depression and alcoholism led to Muriel divorcing John, and he had been absent for a lot of Michael's life due to him being a career soldier. So Michael Swango became a bit of a mama's boy.
Oh, we know a few of those, right?
Daddy issues.
Was Jason Voorhees? Was he a mama's boy too? Right?
Yeah. Trying to think of another one.
Bates? Bates was a real mama's boy.
Definitely. Oh, and the worst of them all, Wesley Crusher.
Oh, poor Will Wheaton.
Well, he was early in his life, and then he decided, you know what, I'm going to be a badass.
He is a badass. He was a badass even as Wesley. It's okay.
No, I mean the actual character. He later became a badass. But
Okay. Well, we'll have to discuss Star Trek some other time. But
he he had a decent childhood, and all things considered, he graduated from high school valedictorian in 1972. He also played the clarinet in the school band. He was extremely good at it, and even got a music scholarship out of it. But he walked out on that. He just quit. I mean, he joined. Yeah, I mean,
a lot of kids. Well, I mean, like they say, like, well, Hitler was a vegetarian painter, and maybe if he would have been able to go to art school, he wouldn't have killed a bunch of people, right? So maybe.
You ever think that the person who rejected him from that art school has like some really guilty feelings?
Probably, and maybe the person that didn't encourage Swango to pursue his clarinet abilities thinks that maybe they should have pushed him a little harder.
Well, he got a scholarship. He chose not to do it. I mean, there's a series on Amazon that's like 4 parts long, dealing with apparently Hitler was a major sexual deviant, and I've kind of been toying with the idea of covering that, but I don't know how well that would be received. I haven't even watched it yet. I've got it saved on my watch list, and it's been there for like a year and a half. I haven't even watched it, but I was just like toying with the idea. Let us know in the comments, should I cover that? If I get enough comments, then if I get enough yes votes on it or whatever, then
who studies
it.
Like who knew him well enough to be like, I know exactly what Hitler did in the bedroom. I know what he did. I mean, I wonder what kind of person really is like, I'm an expert in Hitler in the bedroom.
Yeah. It would probably be a very creepy episode. Maybe we'll do that when I fire up the Patreon page again. Maybe that'll be a Patreon episode.
Do that.
So he joined the Marines after dropping out of his music scholarship, and he was honorably discharged in 1980 after just 2 years. He then went to college began studying medicine. He took the strict structure of the Marines to heart, and he lived by it. And he was constantly exercising, and he would even give himself push-ups if he screwed something up. It's like, Swango,
that's effective.
You did that wrong. Okay, I'll drop and give you 50.
That's really effective. I mean, I'm sure a drill sergeant would be like, all right, I don't even have to punish this guy with PT. He just does it himself. Like,
I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind?
Oh my God. In Jim Carrey voice too.
Yeah. Indeed. Or if we want to go religious, the self-flagellation.
Well, like in Monty Python, he can chant, the EA to dominate.
Bonk.
Yeah.
The Bible thumpers.
That works.
In Quincy College, he graduated with honors and got the American Chemical Society Award, which is a pretty prestigious award from what I hear. He then went to Southern Illinois University School of Medicine. And this is where the red flags started appearing, like major ones. He'd been interested in death since he was a kid. He was collecting articles about death and keeping a scrapbook, about it. But he had been a great student.
There's little Billy's scrapbook.
Yeah.
Or little Joseph Swango's scrapbook.
And this is Jonestown. This.
I think if my kid was into that, I'd be like, even my parents, I mean, I was a weird child, but I don't think I kept death scrapbooks, like this is yeah, that's great.
What's the difference between a scrapbook and a true crime podcast?
I don't. Well, maybe I'll make a collage or something.
But he had been a great student up until that point, and but he also got a job as a paramedic, which he actually started putting over his studies at SIU. And this is when he really started getting interested in death because he saw it frequently. It's like a pervert getting a job as a strip club DJ.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's a really good analogy because I'm pretty sure that most DJs at strip clubs are in fact perverts. But
I don't know about that. I know one. He's been one for years. He may have been at the beginning, but now he's just so bored with it, doesn't even faze him anymore.
Maybe that is a good analogy because I'm sure that Swango, after he killed a few people, it just didn't really faze him anymore.
A month before he graduated, he was busted for faking checkups on patients, and he was almost expelled for that. But he was allowed to graduate. I think I left something out here. He was allowed to graduate if he retook the final year. Some fellow students had questioned about his competence as a doctor, but he would become a doctor soon enough. And what better place for a death-obsessed psycho to get a job? Because people die in hospitals all the time.
They do. They do, in fact.
This is the first Dr. Death Poisoner we've ever covered on CKCB, and there's a lot of them. And some of these people just don't take the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm to heart. And
nope.
Maybe they should have taught him that in the Marines as well.
Well, but what they teach you in the Marines is, you travel to interesting places, meet interesting people, and kill them. I mean, that's what the military teaches you, right?
Allegedly. Sources on the documentary Very Scary People, Season 2, Episodes 11 and 12, and a little bit of wiki in columbusmonthly.com. November 4th, 1983, in Champaign, Illinois, 19-year-old Cindy McGee, 19-year-old gymnast at the University of Illinois. She was there on a full-ride scholarship, and she was just riding her bike along on campus when she got hit by a car. And she had head injuries, and she was rushed to the hospital, and she was in critical condition. But she was strong. She was improving. And she was taken to a rehab facility at OSU Medical Center. And it looked like she was pulling through. But within 2 days, she was dead, and the last doctor to see her was, of course, Michael Swango. Darn it, lost another one.
Yeah, that one was a little strong. Had to use a little more poison on her to keep her down, right?
We'll get into exactly what he did to her later. But Swango had just gotten hired there under a surgical internship, and nurses had reported that he had been giving unnecessary doses of medicine to patients, and the patients had gotten sick as a result. Those nurses were laughed off as being paranoid, and the dean of SIU had been petitioned to not pass him. Said dean decided, like I said a minute ago, that he should be given a second chance, and he had to repeat his final year. He did, and he was given the internship after completing that final year. He had the highest number of deaths of patients and he was allowed to. Let me do that again. He even had the highest number of deaths of patients that he was allowed to work on in the university. He even had
some gross negligence, don't you think? Like that everybody, even the nurses were kind of like, I don't know about this guy. I mean, his patients keep dying, and the dean is like,
yeah. I mean, people die people die all the time. He had an ominous nickname at the university, 00 Swango, licensed to kill. It's a pretty...
Ouch.
That's pretty...
I mean, you laugh that off, but that's pretty gruesome.
It's gruesome, but it's a pretty clever nickname.
Yeah.
In 1984, in Quincy, Illinois, Swango is working as a paramedic, which pays considerably less than being a doctor. And he said that he was getting burned out on being the doctor, and he had to take a leave of absence from the Ohio State University Medical Center. He was
That's a lot out of you to kill people, I guess. It's tiring. It's tiring killing all these people. I
yeah.
don't know how I'm gonna cope.
Have some compassion here. I mean, he was very good at assessing an injury and helping the victim. So because of his skill, nobody really thought anything of the leave of absence until much later when he finally went down. I mean, they were happy to have him at that point because he was good. But
yeah, that it's one of those things where that's I mean that must have just been the only reason he was able to keep doing it for so long, because if he sucked at actually diagnosing and choosing the right treatments, then they'd be like, this guy just sucks, get rid of him, he's no good at anything. But
well, I mean, BTK, he had he sold a lot of security systems in Wichita, just because people were scared about what he was doing.
Convenient when you sell the security system to the people, right?
Yeah, and he also became a compliance officer later on, and he was like a real dickhead to everybody. And but the local government loved him because he was writing a lot of tickets and making them a lot of money.
Well, that's basically the bottom line, right? Money is always the bottom line. Always.
Yep. Yeah, like Michael Lang says, money, the bottom line. That's one of my characters.
My mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Now this guy's an idiot promoter and wine connoisseur. In September of 1984, Michael brought a box of donuts in for the crew. One medic ate one, and within 20 minutes he was sick, like vomiting, profuse sweating. And while he was in the bathroom, another medic came in and started doing the same thing.
Are they from Dunkin'?
Didn't say.
Or don't do that to Krispy Kreme donuts, though. Hate that.
I don't know what is Dunkin' nationwide? Probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're on your side, right? No, that's Nationwide is on your side. Oh, it was Dunkin' is what's their little thing at Dunkin'?
I don't remember a Dunkin' Donuts jingle.
They had a little slogan like wake up with Dunkin', or like or it's a good morning with Dunkin'. I don't know. I gotta look that up, but it's something. I know I'm blending all of these little jingles together.
Dunkin' Donuts goes great with arsenic.
At least it tastes better going down, right?
Well, arsenic is kind of sweet. I don't know from experience. I know it from doing the research on this episode.
Are you sure?
Maybe. The health department investigated the donut shop, and they had no complaints about other people getting sick. And all of the other food that was in the refrigerator was tested, and there was nothing wrong with it. So they just decided that it had to be something else.
Just two tainted donuts.
Yeah. The next night, a medic and Swango were manning an ambulance at a high school football game. There he asked the medic what his ultimate ambulance call would be. And Swango said that his would be a busload of kids hitting a fully loaded gas tanker truck head on. He described the carnage that he wanted to see, with charred bodies hanging out the windows, with some of the kids being blown out of the bus and into barbed wire fences.
The face of his partner at that moment. What do you even say to that? What do you even say to that? I think after that I'd be like, can I ride in the ambulance with I don't know, anybody else?
Anybody else?
Anybody else? But this creepy dude who wants to see dead, charred children? Anyone.
I hear the quarterback's dad is an ambulance driver. I'll just see if he wants to drive the ambulance.
Hi. Hi.
But so after that, Swango is like, I'm going to go get us some soda. You want one? So the medic says,
No.
sure. Yeah.
Correct answer to that is no, thank you.
No, thank you. By the start of the third quarter, he was getting sick. The guy was getting sick yet again. And Swango started interviewing the medic, asking him how he was feeling. Like, nausea? Vomiting? Yeah, he was making light of the situation. Just, tell me how you
As the guy's
feel.
puking. Do you have
Yeah.
nausea? Do you have vomiting? I think so. Yes, yes, I do.
Is it a deep ringing sensation, like a wringing out a wet towel sensation that your stomach is doing when you vomit?
Oh, I can just see Swango for just getting more and more excited. It just can you really describe your pain on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the best. I mean the
I mean the
most,
worst.
the worst. Be 10.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But 10.
These go to 11.
Well remembered. Spinal Tap.
Yeah. Wasn't sure if you get that or not. I'm impressed.
Can't find the stage either.
Hello, Cleveland.
Tiny little Stonehenge on the verge of being crushed by a dwarf.
I saw them in concert back in the 90s, and for that song, it's like a whole bunch of like those little styrofoam rocks started raining down. Like they actually had it big this time and up in the rafters, but it was too big and it broke.
Well, that's great. I would have loved to see that, or if they actually just brought down the little like 5-inch stone stage, like this is what you put on the specs: 5 inches, 5 by 7, right?
I kind of equate seeing that concert with people that like got to see Led Zeppelin in concert. It's just it's like a status symbol type of thing. It's just like they only did one tour, but
yeah, you're showing your age, I think.
I do it all the time. I'm 29, almost 30.
I'll go with that.
We'll go with that. September 27th, 1984, he brought sodas for several of the medics, and he took one of them into the bathroom, and when he came out, one of the sodas that he handed to one of the medics had been opened.
I don't think I'd take any soda that had gone to let me just take your drink to the toilet. I'll be back in just a minute. And then just here, it's refreshing. It might be a little warmer than you're used to, but it's good. Why would you take that? If the guy knew that he took to the bathroom, I would question.
Well, the medic asked him, he's just like, joking around. He's like, what, did you go in there and piss in my soda? And Swango laughed it off, and he said that his stomach was upset, so he drank a little bit of the soda, which was a Sprite, to settle his stomach. And the medic drank it.
He didn't piss in it. It's like, it's okay, my spit's in it, but not my piss. It's all right, don't worry.
I don't drink after anybody. I mean, I don't even drink after women I kiss. I just don't like drinking after people. And
just gotta think about what's in it. Like,
yeah,
like what's in. Yeah, I know.
I told him, no, give me an unopened one, thank you.
One you didn't backwash into. That'd be great.
Yeah. Before too long, he was vomiting profusely. I mean, a nurse came in to check on him, and he told her to go grab that soda. And she did, but by that time, Swango had dumped it down the drain.
Oh, yeah, because that would be the smart thing to do, I guess, is get rid of all the evidence.
Get rid of the evidence. Rinse it out really good.
Yeah.
Next day, the medic got a phone call. It was Swango interviewing him about how he felt.
always with the interviews, it's always like I see. Yeah, that I think after a while, if I was his coworker, I'd just yeah, I'd be like, what is this and depending on how he said it, because I don't know, maybe he was really cordial and congenial when he called, like, hey, I just wanted to make sure you were feeling okay, or but if he was like, can
Just
you
checking up on you. Yeah.
describe your pain and how you felt, because I'm it really gets me off. I mean, I really want to know how you feel.
You
Eh.
can't really dust for vomit.
Oh my God. See that reference, I know I've heard it, and now I'm not going to catch that reference.
It's also from Spinal Tap.
Oh my God. Okay, I haven't seen that movie in years. I got the 11. I got the 11 at least.
The paramedics at that point became very suspicious of Swango, and they started discussing it. They were piecing together the fact that all the people who had gotten sick did so after eating or drinking something that Swango had given them. They couldn't believe it because Swango was such a nice guy that
So nice.
they still
Caring.
yeah they'd never took anything from him again. Can't say I blame them.
No, that would be and suddenly I was never sick again. Interesting. No correlation there at all. Yeah.
One medic mentioned that they were watching the news one day and a live broadcast came on about a mass shooting. And it was the San Diego McDonald's shooting that happened on July 18th, 1984, where 41-year-old James Huberty killed 21 people and wounded 19 more before being taken out by a sniper. And that's probably a case that we might cover at some point. Other podcasts have covered that one. But at the time, it was the deadliest lone gunman shooting in history. But Swango was watching that with a shit-eating grin, saying how great it would be to witness that.
Wait, the thing about it is that it, you would think that someone who committed the crimes that he did would be a little more subtle about how he behaved otherwise. That's what kills me, the fact that he was able to continue doing this for so long, and there were all these red flags and all these things, but nobody ever really said, that's creepy, that right there, like, he's a creep. And so yeah, I don't know, like, that's so crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen somebody just watching like a horrific event. Like say, can you imagine if somebody had like cracked up laughing when 9/11 was going on?
No.
Uh,
I At that point, I think I'd be like, you're a psycho. I really think I need to call the police because I'm
Yeah,
sure you have bodies in your backyard.
yeah.
And yeah.
But this is crazy. Another time there was a fatal car accident that happened on Swango's night off. He either had a police scanner or he just happened to be in the right place at the right time and witnessed the accident. But when the medics got there, he was on top of one of the cars, not trying to help the victims. He was taking pictures of the victims, and he should have been fired on the spot, maybe even arrested.
Yeah, I can't. And that's also one of those things where I also think about the families. Like, what if you found out that this creepy dude was taking pictures of your family member in in a vehicle or whatever? Like, what? I can't. I would demand that the guy was fired.
Yeah.
I would raise hell. I'm like, what is this guy
Or
doing? And
what if there was a victim that was just like, he he was only mostly dead, but
he got better, or at least he could get better.
but
Yeah.
he sees Swango. He's like, okay, who's going to help me? And he just takes out a camera. Could you describe how you're feeling?
How would you rate your pain? From you're bleeding a lot, but it's okay. Let me just take a photo of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Your leg is outside the vehicle. What's that like? Tell me what that's about.
Do you need a hand? Yours is over there.
First episode, she gets me.
I oh I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's awesome. I love it.
Continue.
But at the time, all the medics had was circumstantial evidence. Local newspaper had been tipped off as well, but there was literally no story. Plus flu season had been particularly bad that year, and plus it's really hard to believe that a doctor or a paramedic would actually do something that horrific. Poisoning people.
Yeah. Usually they don't. I hope,
No.
for our sakes.
In October of 1984, the medics got sneaky. They staged a fake ambulance run that Swango was on, and while they were out, the other medics went through his personal things. In his bag, they found a bottle
Drink
of ant
some more.
poison. This is just water.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it'd be better if you had this is my big gulp beer.
I've done that before. But
Oh.
In his bag, they found a bottle of ant poison that contained arsenic, and that's one of the oldest poisons in the history of the world. It's tasteless and odorless, and they did the arsenic itself. They did a sting operation. They made a pitcher of unsweetened tea, and then they went on a run, leaving Swango at the hospital. When they came back, the medic tasted it, and it had been sweetened. And this particular ant poison contains sugar to attract the ants to it. That's why it's kind of sweet. But
Yeah, because ants like sugar and crap.
the tea was taken to the lab and analyzed, and sure enough, it had arsenic in it, and there was more than enough in it to kill somebody.
See that poor guy working out, drop dead after that.
Later in October, presidential candidate Walter Mondale was doing a campaign stop in Quincy. Swango wanted to be on the team that would tail him, and that request was obviously denied.
You know what I'd really like to see? His mangled body in a car.
Well, Mondale had other problems during that campaign. It's just he's only the recipient of the biggest electoral blowout in the history of the country. He only won one state.
But it was a very good state.
I think it was his home state, or maybe it wasn't. I don't think it was. I don't think it was his home state. I don't even think he carried his own home state. The other state that he won was probably I don't know, California,
Wyoming,
or something.
Nowhere lives there. No one lives there, and so
No, he wouldn't have won Wyoming. California, New York. California and New York, that's my guess. One or the other. But
big state to win, though.
No, he didn't win California because that's where Ronald Reagan was from.
This is before my time. History is not my thing.
It had to have been New York then. But no, I don't care about politics, but the history of some of these elections and everything, I do like to read into, and I remember that election when I was a kid. So
now you are showing your age. Yes, now you're definitely.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm almost 31. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our birthdays are just a day apart, 2 days apart. Mine's the 7th.
9.
Yeah, 2 days apart.
Yeah.
Great. A pair of September Virgos.
That's it.
What could go wrong?
Nothing. It'll be to perfection. Or else.
Yeah. But, okay, where was I? The police were called, and they showed up, and they started taking reports from everybody. They were building a case. And the fact that he had arsenic was deemed circumstantial due to the fact that nobody had actually seen him spike the drinks. But hair samples were taken because if arsenic is ingested, it will show up in somebody's hair, and every sample had arsenic.
Yeah.
A warrant was issued, and they set a trap where Swango could be arrested without incident.
There was an incident.
It was an incident. And I just fucked it up again. Swango really wanted to be a coroner, and he spent lots of time in the morgue. And
Making scrapbooks.
I wonder if he had become a coroner and not gotten caught, I wonder if he would have gotten into the necrophilia thing.
Crack open a cold one.
God damn. Oh my God. I love this woman. So they called him and said that he had been approved to be a deputy coroner, and he was like, yeah, but he would have to come to the county jail to where they could take his picture for his ID badge.
Oh.
So Swango bolted to the jail, and when he got there, his picture was taken while he was holding a placard with his name and birthday on it. and probably a really dumbfounded, shocked look on his face. like BTK when they put the floppy disk in front of him in the interrogation.
Here, hold this plaque.
Search warrant was issued for his apartment, and they found a treasure trove of poisons and other chemicals in his kitchen, as well as rat and ant poisons. And they did not find any evidence of ants or rats. They also found...
Well, of course not. He had enough poison to kill them. Come on.
But put a knife in that. That's what I say. You know, some podcasts will be like, well, put a pin in that. No, this is a true crime podcast. I say put a knife in that. But they also found index cards with instructions on how to make up different types of poison. But despite having 7 charges of aggravated assault, he made bail and he was released. He was ordered not to leave Illinois, but he did anyway. Actually going into...
Don't leave. I won't.
I won't be back.
He's trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
You can trust him. But actually, he went into Ohio to work in the ER at a hospital there while he was out on bond.
I'm looking over his resume like, let's see, out on bond for murder. Out.
Or for poisoning. Yeah.
Have a job.
They began digging into his past. His first internship, nothing had really happened. But once he got into the ER and people started dying after he had been in contact with them, some of these people weren't even his patients, like Cindy McGee, who we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. He had been sent in to draw a blood sample from her because she had a fever and she was dead when he left the room, and the cause of death was listed as pneumonia.
It's a very quick pneumonia death.
Yeah, one of those lightning pneumonia.
Just sudden onset pneumonia. She died.
In addition to Cindy, 6 other people had died under mysterious circumstances after contact with Swango, but there was no proof, and he was fired anyway. As the case against Swango was being put together, lots of people had his back, saying that he was being set up. He had a really charismatic personality, but other people said that they were creeped out by him.
Namely the ones that, were like, he likes dead, charred children. I don't know. The other one, like, he's a great guy. Great guy.
Now, this is interesting because Swango chose a bench trial where only a judge would be able to hear the evidence. Now, on the surface, you'd think that a jury trial would have been better for Swango himself because he could probably sway a couple of the jurors and convince them that he was innocent.
And there was some circumstantial, like like we were saying, circumstantial evidence. Like he had rat poison and stuff, but you can't really prove that he stuck it in a drink. I mean, no one saw him do it.
Nobody saw him do
So,
it. Yeah. This case doesn't happen today. There's cameras everywhere in those, you know. Well, I don't think there's cameras in the patient's rooms, though.
not usually. Just I think that's a
Privacy.
HIPAA thing. Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
you can't be filming people even if they're being poisoned by arsenic or.
They should have cameras that are only activated when the doctor is in the room with them.
Yeah, I mean, I know they do. I mean, they do have some cameras and stuff, I think, in certain surgical rooms and stuff. But I think, everything needs to be signed on release from the patient. I would think that, the patient would have to give consent for any filming or any sort of stuff, and they would have to say what exactly they gave their consent for it to be used with or in or.
But even still now, if a doctor were to go into a patient's room, the hallways are still um, filmed and recorded. So
Yeah.
if a doctor goes in there and then comes back out, that's going to be time stamped. And if he flatlines like right after that doctor came out or that nurse or
And you
whatever,
do that every time. Yeah. Let's see.
yeah,
Doctor walked in at 2:57. Patient dead at 2:59. All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But his ego got a hold of him because he thought that he could go toe to toe with the judge and win. During his time on bond, he went to Florida to see his mother. Once again, they told him not to leave the state. um,
Had to
and,
see his mom.
yeah,
He,
gotta go see
he
mom.
mama's boy. He's a mama's boy. She was probably mummified in a room. He had on a wig. Had to go see his mother.
When he got back, he reported that his house was in fact infested with ants. And an exterminator went there and confirmed that yes, his house was in fact full of ants. But these were carpenter ants from Florida, not Illinois.
He's ordering ants from the internet. How can I get 10 million ants quick?
So he's planting evidence. I mean, he has to come back. Yeah,
He ordered 1,000 ant farms.
But if you were to put if you put like a whole bunch of carpenter ants into a bucket and move them around, they're going to start fighting.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he was able to transport them from Florida all the way back up to Illinois with
I would think he might have been able to actually, I mean, because like I said, like I said it in jest, but I mean, ant farms and stuff, I mean, they have so many different kinds of ants, and I would think like carpenter ants could be really interesting because, maybe because of how they tunnel or something. I'm not sure like what species of ant might generally be in a kit that you could actually order ants.
I don't know, but I don't think you wouldn't put carpenter ants in an ant farm though.
Maybe not. I don't know. I mean,
I mean,
I don't know.
fire ants work the best for the ant farms.
Uh,
I mean, I'm not saying that they're the best ants to hand around, but they do all that tunneling and stuff like that, and
they do.
in dirt,
They do.
in dirt. So
Yeah, but they make mounds though. They like to make like,
yeah, that's true.
yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they would do. What ants are that should be something we should look up. What ants are in an ant farm? Like, what can you purchase?
Well, I made one out of a large pickle jar when I was a kid, and I used fire ants.
I have never had an ant farm. But I do know that you could order them. Because it was funny because they had all these science kits. 'Cause I'm a science nerd, and they had some kits where you would order the kit, and they had the whole little setup, and then the ants came separate. So it's like they didn't come with the kit. Like you had to get the kit and then order the ants from like some agricultural center. where
I don't know,
they
but
guaranteed they'd get there.
on the documentary they showed carpenter ants, so that's why I was assuming they were carpenter ants. But I mean, you're not gonna, fire ants aren't gonna infest somebody's house either. So there's no way
No,
it was fire ants. I mean, the fire ants are, going to be like, if there's any food out, they're going to get it. Then they're going to get the hell out of the house.
little sugar ants, like sugar ants, that's what you usually find in your house because they're just
Right.
attracted to everything to
And they're
eat.
harmless.
Yeah.
It's like if one gets into your food, you're not even going to taste it when you take a bite of whatever it's in. I mean, they're so tiny. But
Yeah.
April 22nd, 1985, the trial happened, and all the evidence was circumstantial. He claimed that he had all the poisons in his house because he was trying to develop antidotes.
Like antivenom? Like, is he milking snakes and stuff too? Like,
Maybe he's milking carpenter ants. I don't know.
how do you milk an ant?
I don't know. Well, carpenter ants don't even inject venom into you. They just bite.
Wow. Yeah, they're carpenter. They like wood. They like chewing and all that.
But he was found on May 3rd, 1985. Swango was found guilty of poisoning 6 of his coworkers, and he swore he was innocent. Nobody bought it, and he was sentenced to 5 years. The judge was convinced that Swango was actually a serial killer, but still he was released after just 2 years.
Good behavior.
Yeah.
He can't kill anybody in prison. He couldn't, get a hold of arsenic. But they probably put him in charge of landscaping duty or whatever. Here's some ant poison.
But he was actually hired as a doctor, and people started dying again. And he even got more brazen, and he would tell his patients that they were next, with one in particular. He would inject people with poisons mixed with other chemicals so that the patients would suffer on their way out. He also got a real thrill of being the one that tells the victims' families that their loved ones had died.
So not only does he want to kill them, but he wants to be the one to break the news.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
He had moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he had worked in all 3 of the city's hospitals there. And they got a tip from somebody who had just seen a true crime show called Justice Files. They had done an episode on Swango's exploits in Ohio and Illinois. John Stossel had interviewed Swango on this show, and while he was still in prison. And Swango still swore that he was innocent, and he even had Stossel leaning on being convinced of his innocence. That's how good of a bullshitter he was.
Charisma is one of the kind of signature personality traits of a lot of killers. I mean, they are very suave and charismatic. They make you comfortable, because that's the whole thing. I mean, you can't be a creep all the time. People won't be drawn in, to you if you're a creep all the time. So
yeah. But all the employees at the hospital were shocked, and Swango had even gotten engaged to a nurse there named Kristen, and she didn't believe the story, but put a knife in that. But they began researching his patients, and he had been behaving himself so far, but he was suspended for lying on his background. He said that he had been in jail for a bar fight where he rescued a woman who was being harassed by a man in the bar. I'm a hero.
I'm a real patriotic, upstanding citizen, real hero.
I'm a Marine and a doctor.
Yeah, that definitely could be part of why he got sympathy, and no one really dug into it. Everyone seems legit. Yeah.
But he was fired. But he still swore that he was innocent. In 1993, he and Kristen moved to New York. There, he got a job at the VA Medical Center in Northport, Long Island. There, he came into contact with a disabled and wheelchair-bound World War II vet named Thomas Samarco. He was just there for a routine exam, but he immediately got sick, and there was belief that he had a staph infection in his brain, and he was put in the ICU. He reported that every night a young doctor would walk by his room and say, "You're next." His death
Can
was
you
soon
imagine like surviving World War II just to be taken out by some
by this piece of shit. Yeah,
crazy like it's like I survived, you know, being in the line of fire, and I'm a 90-year-old veteran or 80. Well, I guess at that time, whatever. But
yeah. But his death was soon after, and it was reported as natural causes. One doctor reported that Swango had been convicted of poisoning, so they began investigating, and of course, the truth came out. And as usual, he denied everything. They then asked if they could check his office, and his demeanor changed. He said no, and he stormed off. Right. Like, what a way to raise suspicion on yourself.
yeah, like, excuse me, can we just check your office? Office? What office? I don't have an
I have an
office.
office.
No.
No, it's for the basement. There's a lot of ants down there.
There's a lot of rats in my office.
He was fired and Swango vanished, and the FBI got involved and tracked him to Atlanta, where he had been working at a water treatment facility. That's not
That's
good.
How can I poison an entire population? Yikes.
But from there, the trail went cold and he was gone without a trace. And he was a fugitive now, and he was in the wind. In the deep dive into his past, it was found out that he had forged a document from the Illinois Department of Corrections saying that he was charged with a bar fight, and that the governor of Virginia had restored his rights, which was not true because this was an Illinois case. I mean,
the governor of Virginia liked him. Okay, the governor of Virginia knew that he needed to be pardoned.
Well, I mean, he's a really good exterminator. I had ants and rats in my house, and he got rid of them.
Now there are none.
Yeah.
I had a grandma in my house too, and now don't have it anymore.
Yeah,
not related. Right?
My mother-in-law.
Well,
he had also lied on his job application at the VA hospital, which was a felony because the VA is a government institution. That's why the FBI got involved. He was charged with that, so now they could legally arrest him for, just all they had to do was find him. And this arrest warrant was international as well. And Interpol was involved as well because they, just in case he tried to leave the country, they didn't know where he was. But the FBI and Interpol were working together. So, but the case went cold for 4 years, and Swango was arrested in Chicago for coming back into the country, and he was arrested and taken to New York. His passport was stamped in Zimbabwe. Yeah, that place. The FBI had been working with Zimbabwe law enforcement to find out what he was up to while he was there. And Zimbabwe at the time was in the middle of an AIDS outbreak, and there was a shortage of doctors. And lots of doctors from other countries were brought in. He was assigned to the Benin Mission Hospital, and they were grateful to have him. He was put in OBSTETRICS.
Spell it again.
OBSTETRICS.
Oh, obstetrics.
That.
Oh, so now I can go to him when I need to have my baby.
Yeah. Um,
Great.
if you didn't get it, I was going to say it has something to do with childbirth,
Yes.
but he had said that that was his specialty, and it didn't take too long before the hospital realized that he had no clue what he was doing.
He's standing there with the catcher's mitt. Okay.
Got
Like,
the
I don't think
salad
this guy knows what he's
spoons.
doing. Get the machine that goes ping.
Break out the salad spoons.
Do you mean the forceps, sir? Yeah, yes.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
that. In the United States, we call them salad spoons.
Technical term.
There was also a rash of suspicious deaths, as well as people who had gotten lockjaw after being seen by Swango.
Yeah. Tetanus now too, right? All right.
Some of the victims were exhumed, and autopsies were done, and they were looking for evidence of poison. Survivors reported severe pain after being injected by Swango. One man said that he thought he was going to have a heart attack and die. And Swango had come to him in the night, pulled down his pajamas, and injected him with a pink fluid. His jaw locked and his body went numb, and his heart was beating far too fast. There was a pregnant woman in labor. Swango injected a pink fluid into her, and she immediately hurt all over her body. She couldn't move, and she could barely breathe. And she was able to get a staff member's attention and reported that Swango had injected her with something. It was a paralytic drug that I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
Got about 40 letters and
Yeah.
yeah.
The IV was examined and a new one was given to her, and she luckily survived. Swango was fired, especially after reports about his past from the United States arrived. He hired an attorney to fight this firing. That's just dumb. Just get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I'm just gonna leave Zimbabwe now and go somewhere
Yeah.
else, you know.
Well, but his attorney wanted documents proving that he was a legit doctor, and Swango couldn't provide them. He's just coming up with ridiculous excuses as to why, and his attorney thought that he was full of shit.
Was he full of shit? He was in fact full of shit, right?
Yeah. He had volunteered at several other hospitals there and was linked to suspicious deaths at all of them. In Zimbabwe, he was officially charged with 5 counts of murder. Zimbabwe sent word to multiple African countries warning them about him. And he wasn't going to be able to practice medicine in Africa again. But when police went to arrest him, he had bolted. He had climbed out the back window and hauled ass, and he got into the airport before the police knew what happened.
Just running around. That's what's his thing. It's like I'm gonna kill, and then when I'm found out, then I'm gonna run and forge some shit, and then
This would make a good dark comedy movie.
you gotta play like what is it, the Benny Hill? Gotta be running around everywhere.
Yeah, but I said dark comedy. But yeah, the Benny Hill would work. When he was arrested in Chicago, he wasn't coming back to live there. He had a job waiting for him in Saudi Arabia, but he had to get a work visa for Saudi Arabia in the United States. If he had made it to Saudi Arabia, he very likely wouldn't be alive today. Because if he had gotten busted there, they would have just chopped his head off or something.
Oh yeah, they would have been like, and you're done. Go to Saudi Arabia, dude. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
They're a lot more understanding than we are. Oh.
Stateside, the FBI was finding out everything they could about him. Several girlfriends had reported that they had become violently ill while they were at his place. July 12, 1998, Swango was convicted of lying on his federal job application. He pled guilty and got 3.5 years. So the FBI had 3 years to get him for murder. They assembled a team to go through every case at the VA hospital, and they narrowed it down to 3 deaths that Swango had been in contact with just before they died. They were Thomas Samarco, Aldo Serini, and George Ciano. Ciano had lymphoma and was in pain, and Swango came in and injected him. Swango came in and injected him for something for the. What the hell did I write there? Swango came in and injected him with something for the pain, and he was dead the same day. The FBI asked the families if they could exhume those men to test for poisons, and it was determined that the cocktail that Swango had used was a powerful stimulant mixed with that paralytic that I wasn't even going to try to pronounce. Yeah. So he was the pink concoction. Amoxicillin is pink.
It is, but I mean, you would need a lot of them. I mean, because amoxicillin is a
it's an antibiotic.
Penicillin derivative. Yeah, that's an antibiotic. I mean, I don't know if you could kill anyone with amoxicillin. I mean, you'd need a lot.
I was just saying. I was just making a comment that it's pink. That's all.
It isn't. So is Pepto-Bismol. Yes.
Yeah. But time was running out, and they hadn't found any evidence in the corpses. And I mean, we can do it now, but back then they couldn't do it very well. But at the last minute, they found traces of the two drugs in all three of the men. He was charged with 3 counts of murder just 6 days before his prison sentence ended. For the falsifying the application. They then went to the prison where Swango was, and they gave him a choice: stay on trial for murder in New York, or get shipped back to Zimbabwe to stand trial there for 5 murder charges, where he would be hanged if found guilty.
Well, yeah, hang in there, dude. Yeah.
So, Swango pled guilty under the condition that they took Zimbabwe and the death penalty off the table. He was charged with 4 murders, the 3 in New York, and Cindy McGee's murder in Ohio. September 6th of 2000, he was sentenced in New York, and he admitted to getting his kicks off watching these people die in front of the. He said he liked getting his kicks off of watching them die in front of the victims' families.
That's even better.
October 18th of 2000, he pled guilty to murdering Cindy McGee. He injected her with potassium directly into her heart, and she died instantly.
Oh, I mean that takes some force. I mean, to really,
Yeah, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
That scene just makes me cringe just thinking about it.
Poor girl.
Stay away from the drugs. You won't have to worry about having a needle pierce your heart after going through your sternum.
Well, yeah, between the ribs, you gotta get, yeah.
But those are the 4 murders that he admits to. But remember Kristen, Swango's fiance?
Oh, yes.
Shortly after leaving South Dakota, they broke up, and she killed herself allegedly. The family had kept a lock of her hair and allowed it to be tested, and it was loaded with arsenic. He had killed her too and gotten away with it.
Yeah, he was probably very slowly poisoning her. I mean, because that's like that, back in the 1800s when everything had arsenic in it, just like, oh, arsenic is great. We're going to put it in our wallpaper. We're going to put it in our clothes. We're going to put it in our, everything. And everything had arsenic, and just very slowly getting it leached into you, just kill you after a while.
Should have used iocane poison.
Well, yes, it is one of the more deadly poisons known to men. Yeah.
No taste, no smell.
And it comes from Australia, as everyone knows.
And you apparently can develop a tolerance for it, by taking it in small doses over a period of time.
So build up an immunity.
Yeah,
iocane powder, yes.
So doing that, drinking a drink loaded with that, it wouldn't be all that inconceivable for them both. All right, I was trying to throw you Princess Bride, and you weren't catching it.
Bride. Yes, I did. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's right.
See, you know what?
You said it was made in Australia.
Yes.
Okay, my bad.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god. I can quote that entire movie. And Australia is entirely people with that are criminals, and criminals are used to having people not trust them, as you are not trusted by me. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you.
I love that movie. That's like the only chick flick that men like.
Good movie.
I don't know. I kind of liked
Classic.
I kind of liked Ever After with Drew Barrymore. That was good.
See, I've only seen that movie about once. But it was cute. But nah, Princess Bride is a classic.
Yeah.
And then, you got to watch Princess Bride and all those other little creepy movies from the 80s, like Labyrinth and Neverending Story,
Yeah.
where all my childhood trauma started early.
So he was hashtag, but I digress. He was sentenced to life with no parole, but if he does manage to get paroled, like by some loophole or whatever, he'll still have to go to Zimbabwe and stand trial there. So,
And hopefully they'll just hang him. I don't
yeah,
know. Do they do hangings in Zimbabwe anymore? I don't know
I'm
what the
sure they do.
punishment in Zimbabwe is anymore.
Well, it's probably lethal injection by now, but still.
Wait, I don't know. I mean, some of these countries haven't really caught up with the lethal injection. They're still like, chop his head off. Hang him, firing squad. You know.
But he's at the Supermax Federal Prison in Colorado, and he has said, and I quote, "The chilling truth is that there were far more than reported, and was almost always totally at random."
Mm.
His body count is believed to be around 60, and he's constantly interviewed, but he refuses to give any more information about other victims. And didn't you tell me that he also had a pen pal?
He did, in fact, have a pen pal. So there was a woman, her name was Jennifer Harp Yanka. I believe I'm saying her last name correctly. Her father was one of the lead investigators in Ohio, and he was part of the Ohio University Police. And his name was Richard Harp. He was assigned to Swango's case. And he kind of felt like, this was one of the ones to really get away. Swango. Um, could never really be pinned down. Like he got evidence, but again, circumstantial stuff, that really couldn't be used in a court of law to really pin him down. And her father often brought up Swango's name, and she heard Swango's name throughout her childhood. This was just a guy that she knew about and she heard about. Um, and she ended up becoming a counselor and a psychology professor. And Swango kind of intrigued this Jennifer Harp Yanka. So she decided, without telling her father initially, because she didn't want to freak him out, be like, hey, I'm writing the killer that, I'm writing Swango. She really wanted to kind of get into his psychology and see what it was that made doctors or healthcare professionals want to harm their patients or do anything to their patients that was unethical. So she started out, she like writing him letters, and she started out really just very casual, like, hey, how you doing? Introduced herself, said, my father's Richard Harp, he worked on your case. And she didn't really expect that Swango was going to respond to her, but he did. And when he responded to her, he even mentioned her father, said that, oh, I remember him, and said that he was one of the more professional and courteous people that he'd been interviewed by and worked with as far as the police and detectives went. And he praised her father, which I don't know if that would make her father feel better or not. But, she kind of started corresponding with him over time.
Was she trying to get information out of him?
She really wanted him to admit to more than what he admitted to in court, or at least just get him to explain why, what he was feeling, why he wanted to do it, what drove him to kill. And I mean, it sounds like,
How
a
does
lot of
being
it was,
incarcerated make you feel?
yeah, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain being incarcerated? Yeah, but she was corresponding with him, and for a while, she was trying to talk to him. I know he wrote some letters to her about some of his relationships and stated that he liked to be with older women. Um, she, tried to get him to talk a little bit more, but this correspondence never really went anywhere. I mean, she tried real hard to establish a rapport with him. She was talking about her pets and her home and her garden and her hobbies, just kind of trying to get him to open up, like, and feel comfortable. But
Nothing came of it.
no, not really. No. There's a few, pictures of letters and stuff. You know, uh, it was just, yeah, it was just kind of crazy how um he didn't own up to anything. She never got any real closure from Swango, and I think it's just telling that he admitted to those four, suspected of 60 or more. He's never going to talk.
No.
That he's never going to admit that.
Well, she was trying to do what Gillian Lauren did. The She wrote the book Behold the Monster, which was a book about Samuel Little, which is officially the most prolific serial killer that the U.S. has ever had. And
Mm,
and she got into his head, he got into her head, and all that stuff. And but because of her, the case against him was blown wide open. Just because of her correspondence, and she was probably trying to do the same thing that Jillian was doing. Our you know one of my podcast friends, Murder Coaster. I call them the mighty Murder Coaster. But they did a interview with Gillian Lauren, and she's talking about like all she went through with her correspondence with Samuel Little. That's chilling. But
hmm
it's
Yeah, I mean, I read some of the letters, and like I said, like you can find some of the letters um online, like she tried, at one point she wrote him and said, Michael, you may have a complicated long criminal past, but just in the last year or so that we've exchanged letters, you are way more than someone to be pigeonholed as a very scary person. Would you agree? So that kind of persuasion, the kind of, how do you picture yourself? I don't know. Aren't you more than just a creepy dude who likes to see dead people and are you more than that? Or is that kind of your thing? And she just figured that one thing that she concluded was, we mentioned back at the beginning of the episode how his parenting was, very authoritarian, somewhat neglectful. But she kind of believes that he just never really learned empathy, from an early age. And children who grow up in homes that are not empathetic, they don't learn to relate to other people. They don't feel grief in the same way. They don't, think about how others feel. And um, and she thinks that maybe if Swango had gotten some type of
a hug.
therapy early on, yeah, hung, yeah, if he'd been hung, he wouldn't have killed as many people. But no, but maybe if he'd gotten some therapy, that he may not have turned into this type of monster. That it could have been a case of nurture, I suppose, rather than a nature type thing, that he was kind of a created killer in that sense.
He kind of had a.
So,
I mean, he was definitely a process killer.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if there was a childhood head injury. To be honest with you,
Yeah, that could have been it too. I don't know if yeah, she basically stopped corresponding with him um after several years because
wasn't going
it really
anywhere.
wasn't going anywhere. No, and he wasn't giving her anything. Although, that's also part of I think to myself, because he's obviously very manipulative, you
Right.
know, and thrives off of, feeling like he's in power. Um, so I think he probably knew where she was going. It's but being a medical doctor too, maybe not in the field of psychology or anything, but being a medical doctor, he probably knew, oh, I know where you're trying to go with this, and I can string you along for a while and feel like I'm giving you these tantalizing little tidbits that I might talk and then leave you hanging and unfulfilled. And because I don't get much entertainment now that I'm in this super max prison in my little box, alone. So,
Yeah, that was. I couldn't imagine that. If I ever found myself in solitary confinement, I'd be like, just give me a notebook and a pen. Just let me write.
well, and so like this prison, because I was, I even looked up this prison too,
Oh,
interestingly enough.
it's the
And
most secure prison in the United States.
it's because I watched an interview with one of the former wardens or whatever of this prison, and just the
I
fact that these people are alone all the time. They're rarely let out of this little cell. They have no interaction with other people. Their food is slipped through their door. They don't even go
yeah
to a mess hall. It's just like it's just here. They're a little rat in a cage. Here's your food. Here's your water. And I think even the warden said that he witnessed hundreds of force feedings because a lot of these prisoners,
they try to
they,
starve
they
themselves to
do.
death.
Yeah, because they're, eventually they're like, well, I can't live with this anymore, so I'm just not going to eat. That's the most passive way to kill myself. And no, they'll tube feed them,
Yeah,
keep them alive.
I
It's
was
it's
I was
crazy.
thinking I was thinking that BTK was at that same place, but he's not. He's at a different one in Colorado. But
Yeah. No, I know a few oh, there's a whole wing for terrorists that are there. Um there's what is it, the Waco from Waco, um the Unabomber.
no, the Unabomber wasn't Waco, but
No, where was
I
but I think there's someone there. Yeah. There's a few high level people there, but
think that's
yeah.
where El Chapo is too.
That yes, El Chapo is there. Yes. El Chapo is
Yeah,
there.
there's yeah. I've wanted to do a episode sometime about like where some of these people wind up. Just get like a potpourri episode, get them all together, and just talk about it and whatnot. But I'd have to figure out exactly how to do that, make it interesting. But
Yeah.
um, well, anyway, that was a that was a that was a good that was a really good job with your maiden voyage as a podcaster. You
Yay.
can you can now tell everybody that you're a podcaster.
I am a podcaster.
um, and no, that was good. It was a fun one. I wasn't sure how long it would be. It was a rather quick one, and I'm kind of I'm sure my listeners will be thankful for this. I'm going to try to kind of shorten the episodes a little bit. I mean, if it happens, fine. If it doesn't happen, that's fine too. But I'm, it's just however long it takes to get through the information. I'm not gonna, you know, trying to make the podcast better. And I feel like just by virtue of this first episode with you, it already is better. So
I'm glad. I'm so happy.
So, please hit subscribe, like, rate, review, comment. I swear I need to just write this down and have it in front of me because I always
Do
bungle
all the
those.
things for the
do,
episode.
yeah, do all the things for that required. If you like us, tell a friend. If you hate us, tell a foe. So, but how could you hate that beautiful face?
If you hate us, don't tell anybody. Just go away.
No. If you hate us, tell the people that you hate.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Yeah. So, with that being said, till next week. Later.
Bye.